Hi, I'm Elaine Harding. Welcome to my blog at stampwithelaine.com. Today's project is this Emboss Resist technique. The bundle I'm using is called Hello Beautiful. It's an abstract design with the dies to match, and these dies are called the Beautiful Shapes dies. This bundle comes from the Abstract Beauty Suite, which you'll find on pages 48 to 50 in the new January to June 2022 mini catalogue. When you look at the stamp set, it has a series of squiggly lines and doodles and some brush strokes. There are also leaf-shaped images and some flowers, so you can create your own designer series paper and backgrounds. The designer series paper from this suite is called Abstract Beauty, and it is a different size from the normal designer series packs. They are 4 inches by 6 inches, and they're designed so that they will easily fit onto the assorted memories and more cards and envelopes. This is a card in 2 sizes. 4.5 by 3.5 inches for the smaller one, and 4.5 by 6.5 for the larger one. There are 12 double-sided designs. On one side it is gold foiled, and there are 4 each of each design, and on the reverse it's just abstract patterns. Also in the suite are pre-printed cards with backgrounds already on the card fronts, and there's sort of colour washes and backgrounds which will complement the designer series papers. So that's 10 of the cards, and there are envelopes to match. So they make quick, easy cards. All you have to do is just take a designer series paper and put it on top of there. You can chop it up, use only part of it, and use some of it for the inside of the card. So it's really up to your imagination. Also included in the suite is the Abstract Beauty Ephemera pack, and these are laser cut elements to add to your card. One with flowers and leaves, hearts, tabs, tags, speech bubbles, and also some gold foil elements. And last but not least, they have adhesive backed hexagons in different colours. In today's card I'm going to show you how to do the Emboss Resist technique, so you can create your own designer series paper. And if you're flummoxed at looking at these images and wondering how on earth am I going to create a lovely background, you can use the Abstract Designer Series paper to use as an inspiration chart. So I've more or less copied the layout here. To do this I use my Stamparatus. In my original prototype I just cut half an A4 sheet, but because of this element here and I wanted the circle to stick out, I was afraid it might not fit in the envelope, so I've reduced the size of the card. We're using mint macaron, and this has been cut at 5 3/4 inches by 8 inches. In metric that will be 14.5 by 20 centimeters. So you score it at 4 on the long side, fold it in half. For metric you score at 10 and fold it in half. For the matte layer for the front of the card, this is 3 3/4 inches by 5.5 inches. In metric that will be 9.5 by 14 centimeters. I have a basic white piece for the inside of the card, which is cut at the same size, 3 3/4 inches by 5.5. That's 9.5 by 14 centimeters. And then for the second matte layer, the one that you stamp on, this is 3 5/8 by 5 3/8. In metric that will be 9 centimeters by 13.5 centimeters. You need a scrap of mint macaron to die cut the matte layer here, and I am going to steal a bit of cardstock from inside the middle for the pink layer here, because this will be covered up by the matte layer on top, so you won't see the hole. You'll need Versamark ink, Blushing Bride and mint macaron ink, gold and white embossing powder, so you need the basics embossing powders as well as the metallic embossing powders, and a heat tool, some gilded gems. You'll also need the layering circle dies, and I'm using the 5th largest one so that it will be a matte layer for the sentiment. Unfortunately, I couldn't use this one because it was too small for the words. You'll also need the layering circle dies, and I'm using the 5th largest one so that it will be a matte layer for the sentiment. Unfortunately, I couldn't use this one because it was too small for the words, would have cut it off. I did try it with the dies from the Beautiful Shapes die set, and this is the result. So I didn't like the wide border, and it also cut off a bit of the embossing on the card. I prefer this one to this one. Counting from the largest down to the smallest, it's the 5th one in, and then these are the smallest ones down to 8, which is the smallest. And this one I just wanted to show you from the Beautiful Shapes dies. It actually embosses the circle on the outside, but it was much too big and it didn't look right. And these two dies also emboss at the same time as die cutting. I haven't used these yet, but I'll be making future projects with this, so watch out for it. I'm going to stamp the sentiment in mint macaron on the matte layer. Remember I said I was going to steal a bit of cardstock from in there. Then I'm going to stamp this squiggly line in Versamark ink so I can emboss it in gold. Sprinkle it with embossing powder, tap off the excess, bring in my heat tool and heat emboss it. Take the largest of the Beautiful Shapes plain circles and die cut this sentiment out using my standard sandwich, which is platform 1, the thin die adapter platform 2, one of the platform 3's base plate, cardstock, die cutting edge face down, followed by a top platform 3, and then run it through the machine. Put dimensionals on the back of this and secure it to the mint macaron matte layer. Cut from the 5th largest circle in the layering circle dies, set that aside. Now take the smaller of the basic white pieces and we'll start creating our background. So to do the Emboss Resist technique, you first have to stamp in Versamark. I normally like to put some embossing buddy over the cardstock to prevent static. Unfortunately, Stampin' Up doesn't sell these anymore, so you can use talcum powder, sprinkle it over your project and dust it off like you do embossing powders. Now I'm going to do the white Emboss Resist with this squiggly stamp. So I'm going to do one there. Hold this in the tub of embossing powder that I've got and just sprinkle it. Grab the heat tool and emboss that first, and I'm embossing from underneath so it doesn't blow the powders away. So as I'm embossing in two colours, the gold as well as the white embossing powder, I do one first and then I do the dots in gold. So now let's do a bit of stamping. So first I'm going to use this stamp. I'm going to stamp the photopolymer stamp on this Stamparatus mat because it needs a cushion. Just hold the stamp there for a little while for the ink to absorb. Change stamps to this one. Now I'm going to use this stamp here with the thick dots to fill in some gaps. So I've sprinkled embossing powder over that, and I'm just going to heat emboss that first. Now I'm going to switch stamps, and I want these little speckles, which is this one here. Repeat the process, sprinkle embossing powder over it. Heat emboss it. Swap ink pads, this time to mint macaron. Switch stamps, this time I'm using the squiggly one. I'm going to swap stamps to this one here, and I want a solid gold one round about there, so I'm going to put that on the Stamparatus just in case the ink doesn't take. We're ready to adhere this to the matte layer, leaving an even border all round. So I did the same treatment for the inside of the card, only did the bottom right corner and attach that inside. And grab an envelope just to make sure that when I adhere this it will still fit inside the envelope. So only put adhesive on part of the circle, adhere that down, and then last of all a gilded gem. Voila, the card is now finished. That's the inside, and that's the do-it-yourself patterned paper with the Emboss Resist technique. So I hope you've enjoyed today's tutorial. All the supplies are listed below this video in the Show More section. You can also read more about this project on my blog at stampwithelaine.com. All the links are below. You can also find me on Facebook, Pinterest or Instagram. Thanks for watching. Bye.